Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you learn to make more money in less time and have a lot more fun. I'm your host, Paul Sanneman. I'm founder of Contractor Staffing Source, where the contractors build great teams. My guest today is Julian Scadden from NextStar Network. So, Julian, what is NextStar Network and what do they do?
Well, Paul, thank you for having me on. We all know the war for talent is real. NextStar Network knows that we are a member-owned organization that serves over 800 independent businesses throughout Canada, United States, and Australia in residential service trades work, and that is plumbing, heating, cooling, and electrical. So we help the home service providers in those three trades here in the U.S. and Canada and Australia.
Okay, so having worked for 800 members, what is their biggest complaint? And I'm sure you hear it. And how do you guys help solve it?
Well, there's a ton. I think there's some more context here that'll be helpful to the listener. We really help businesses that are anywhere just above the 2 million range, and they usually work well within our system until they hit 100 million at a single location. So their concerns with us are usually going to be more process orientation, going from the hustle and grind of building a business into creating a business that's scalable. And that's where we jump in and help with the processes. Everything from, operational processes to pricing to talent, all of the things that you can think of. Those are the issues for these second stage businesses that we help with.
Okay, now what do you think prevents a business from going from 2 million up? What are the barriers that you see that show up, and how do you help them with that?
Yeah, I think initially it's lack of information or knowledge. Many times in our business, these are tradespeople who perform the work themselves, who said, I can do that, and they started a business. And that's why NextStar was founded over 30 years ago by a plumber out of Milwaukee. His name is Frank 𝗂𝗏 Jr. And what he realized is these are great businesses, but they weren't being run by business people. They were being run by tradespeople. So initially, it's lack of knowledge, a lack of knowing what to do. And then the next plateau that I see for many of these businesses is lack of implementation. And I see that in many industries, not just ours, that, many times people are great conference goers or book readers, but bringing it home, putting it to work and implementing it in the business is what can slow you once you know what to do. So I see it as a two-stage process.
Now, AI has even made that more apparent, because you can go to AI and say, design me a KPI. It'll literally give you all the information on the planet about doing whatever you want to do, and it takes it in about 10 seconds, right? The question is, AI it provides information, but not inspiration, right? Or not follow through. So yeah. You can go and you say, okay, here's my new marketing plan. It'll do it for you. Here's my new recruiting. It's really good at all that stuff.
For sure.
But how do you get people, how do you get them to take the membership to the gym and then actually go work out? That's a big difference between the membership and working out.
Oh, you nailed it. You nailed it. We're rather fortunate at NextStar. NextStar is a proprietary organization. And what I mean by that is we have market area limitations or caps. We can only have so many members in a given geographical area. So as a result, if we see a member that's not engaging with the services, not taking action, we'll give them the opportunity to re-engage and get involved with the services. But if they're not implementing, if they're not engaging, if they're not helping their fellow members here in this network, we will ask them to remove their membership and open the market for someone who is going to engage. So I love that analogy. So many people feel good simply getting that gym membership. It makes them feel like they did something and then they don't go. And really, we're very fortunate that our onboarding team, they do vet not only for the size of business, the financial health of the business to ensure that they can take on an investment like NextStar, but also attitude and mindset and goals of the owner of the business, and really get a feeling for where they're headed. We are a member-owned organization, and part of that, what's really important in the vetting process is, who do we want in the room? Meaning, who's going to answer the phone if another peer calls you and needs help, or they want to come visit your shop or your business? Will you say yes? Will you open the door? Are you giving as much as you're taking? So we have a very unique infrastructure in that way, and a support system. So I think there's that accountability from the organization itself, and so much of it is mindset, but there is that reoccurring phone call with your coach. I'll tell you what, I have a call coming up with my coach here in about an hour and a half. And I need that too. I know what to do. I've done great in my life by implementing, but it's always helpful to get that outside perspective, kind of call you out, check in and see how you're doing. So these are some of the ways that I found myself even personally.
It's sort of like the analogy, having a personal trainer that you're paying $100 an hour definitely helps you get in shape, right?
It's different than just the membership and nobody's watching. You nailed it.
That's right. And the more you pay, the more you listen. It's interesting how that works.
Hey, there you go. Yes, sir. That's part of it.
Because I, as a coach, I mean, people used to pay me upwards of $500 an hour, and they'd always listen. My friends, I give advice for free. They'd never listen to anything I said.
You nailed it. You nailed it. Kind of like our children also, but you got it.
So now, how is it? So if you're a member, I mean, what does it cost? How do you do you have like meetings? How do you get this information out and ensure compliance? Because you're trying to take, I'm going to call it the tradesman to an entrepreneur, which is a big shift.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And how do you help them, support them in getting it done, not just give them the information?
For sure, you nailed it. And so there's a few areas of accountability and support that we offer. So the investment is rather minimal. I mean, the membership dues themselves are currently $14,000 a year. So I mean, that's around $1,000 a month. And the type of businesses we work with, if you don't have $1,000 to invest in your business for growth, you have other issues. So the investment is minimal. However, there are additional services that you will pay for. That membership investment itself, just the dues. You can have email and phone call coaching with your coaches. You have access to our website, which is a very deep repository of information and operations and tools and all the things you can do. But to your point, I don't know a ton of members who go into a website or a self-serve learning and really do well. So they have that monthly call with their coach. That accountability helps. We also have in-person trainings. Now, whether a member chooses to take those on one-to-one for their business, or they can send employees to these group setting type of trainings that we have. So we have a host of what we call training and workshops. A training is a way of introducing an idea or a topic or a process or a concept to a group of people. What we call a workshop is going to be more applicable to your business directly, where we'll have you create a spreadsheet. We do a business planning workshop, which is focused on budgets. We do a marketing planning workshop, which is focused on your marketing for the year. We do a recruiting and retention workshop. So the workshops are more focused on your business, whereas the training are more broad, general ideas and processes that you can apply across any business. So those are some of the ways that we help. In the accountability,
what I found worked in a lot of contractors is peer pressure, right? I mean, you don't want to be the last one on the list. So
there you go.
How do you use peer pressure in a positive way to motivate these people to actually implement what you're suggesting?
Well, that's a really fair question, and it ties to the other thing you asked, how do we track it? We keep something called an engagement score. And when a member logs into their website, it's called their My Page or their portal. The very first thing that pops up is their engagement score. Of course, this shows if any invoices are due, which coach call they have coming up, and then it shows their engagement score right there. And to your point of the meetings that we hold, we have an annual meeting for all the members once a year. And right there on their lanyard, right there below their name, you'll see their engagement score. So there is a little bit of peer policing as well as people logging in and seeing the number and, hey, I think that number's wrong, Paul. They'll give you a call. Hey, that ain't right. They'll call you up.
Right. Oh, I got
Nobody
50,
wants to be last.
65, right?
That's right. Nobody wants to be last.
So now I found, peer is a really good way because unfortunately most contractors don't talk to each other. Yeah. I mean, maybe they're afraid they're a threat. Maybe they're afraid they don't want to disclose what they're doing wrong. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why people don't share information. I think it's some kind of fear, either fear I'm going to be exposed, fear my competition, my secret sauce. So I would say fear is a reason that people don't. What do you think the reason that people do share information?
I can speak to NextStar specifically. I can tell you, I'll tell you my personal experience, but I'll tell you NextStar first. I think NextStar has created a network of trust being member owned. So we are governed by a board of directors, which is made up of members. I sit in the president and CEO seat, and that role is selected and upheld by the board of directors, which again are active members. And in this way, we serve at the board's pleasure. We serve our membership and no one else. We're not a group that acquires any of these businesses. We don't take a percentage of revenues when they grow. And so the business structure in and of itself is really established in a way that creates hyper trust. And again, we have 3 decades of experience. So that's really hyper compounded through peer behavior. But I can also tell you myself, so that's NextStar. I think that's the way the network is aligned. But I can tell you, I think, again, it goes back to a little bit of mindset. Myself, when I was starting my business, even as a NextStar member, I was going to people in my market that weren't members and just asking. There was something that I learned early on, and I called it the Be Dumb Quick movement. I learned to just raise your hand and ask a question and stop being afraid to look dumb, or to your point, being exposed for doing something the wrong way so I could learn a lot faster. But I think you really nailed it. It's one of those two things. Either I don't want to tell you because I think it's secret and I don't want anybody else to know, or I don't know if I'm doing it right and I don't want anybody to know and laugh at me. If you can get past that, though, your life will, and that's anything in your life. And really, if you're listening to this and you're going through that struggle right now, I'm just gonna tell you, you know what? Nobody cares. You know, it's a big deal to you, but guess what? Guess what another human loves to do is actually help you. Very few people actually like to laugh at you. They would love to, oh, I had that problem before. Let me tell you what I did. And then we feel good helping you and you feel great getting helped, and it compounds.
So when you're actually dealing with peers, do you try to connect organizations? Because I've noticed a lot of times, I'm doing 2 million and a guy walks in the room that's doing 20 million. We sort of have nothing in common. It's like, I'm sorry. He goes, well, I only spent 400 grand on marketing last year. And that goes, I can't spend 40 grand on marketing, right? So how do you sort of match equal to equal? So I feel like I'm in the room with peers, not people that I'm just, oh my God, how do they do that?
Well, it's a real balance, Paul, because here's what's interesting is we will create certain sessions, groups, and meetings for peer-to-peer, like-to-like. But you'll also hear people say, well, I need something. I don't want to be in a room with a bunch of people my size. I want to be at the people the next level up.
Right.
So what we'll do is we'll look for a mixer. We do create plans based on your level and what's realistic for you. And then we create mixers, aspirational mixers, where other mentors can, oh, I remember those days, and they can help you out. And what's getting tough now is some of our members are actually reaching heights, as I mentioned, of 100 million per location. Oh my gosh, where do they go for inspiration next? And what we're doing is looking at the next phase of our services and what we can offer and develop for our members that are accelerating beyond what we had seen historically. But you're right. Many times you need to be around your peers who can understand your struggles. And often we also hear, I want some aspirational people in the room too that can have been there, can tell me real world where they've been. So it's a mix of both.
And they go, well, if he can do that, I can do that kind of thing, right? Like,
you've nailed it. Exactly right there. It takes away a lot of the mystery of, when you get to talk to somebody, you realize, hey man, this guy, he's just as silly as me and struggles just like me and has, trouble getting up for his workout. But the difference is he sets his alarm, he wakes up, he gets after the workout. She says she's going to implement the process, she does, and then she checks back in to see how she's doing against it. It's just these micro behaviors that create the difference.
Okay. Now, one of the things, I mean, you've been around almost as long as I've been coaching. I've been coaching like 45 years. So what I've noticed is technology has changed everything, but never like the last year. I mean, I see two big factors, and maybe you can explain how they're affecting the industry. One is private equity, because AI is disrupting everything where it's information for money. So if you're a doctor, you're an attorney, you're selling information for money, you're in trouble because AI is going better, faster, and cheaper than you could. So now there's hundreds of millions of dollars that go, what do we put our money into? It's not going to be movie theaters. It's not going to be law firms. It's not going to be, medical hospitals. So they're going, well, it's not going to do plumbing anytime soon. It's not going to do electrical anytime soon. So this huge influx of capital, which I've never seen before in the last, 3 or 4 years. And they're looking at buying and acquiring that kind of thing. So as a being in the industry, how do you see private equity is changing things? The other thing that's changing everything is AI. Not AI is changing the private equity to come in, but also is changing, like, it'll answer your phone, it'll do your prospecting for you. I mean, I just designed, it was interesting. An hour ago, I designed 2 slideshows, and I said, go to everything I've ever said, look at every book I've ever done. This is what I want to talk about. This is who I am. Please design me a 30-minute slideshow. I want all the slides, I want the graphics, I want everything done. Boom, in 20 seconds, it was there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You're right. Fortunately, the first thing that we had was the pandemic. So that really disrupted the industry. And on the tail end of that, we did see the influx of private equity, because what folks realized, residential service and the trades in general are not going anywhere. We need them for our own safety in these buildings and in our homes and just to function in our infrastructure. So private equity saw this as a great investment and has really altered the game in the way of offering multiple. So here's an interesting mix, Paul, and you'll definitely get this. The average age of the owner of these businesses were at the exit stage anyway, and you offer multiples like no one's ever seen historically, at least in my lifetime. It was the perfect recipe for folks to not only do very well financially and exit, for private equity to enter this space. So that was one. And that disruption, what it's creating is, it's some relearning for our independent members who do not have the capital resources, a national marketing budget, as we would see a private equity have, or the consolidated accounting services or software services, and the way that they can consolidate data and things of that nature. They're just more mature and they scale at a different level. So there's some advantages there, but there's also some disadvantages. As we know about guerrilla warfare, if people actually know the territory, and I'm talking to the independent business owners, we have some very smart, beyond brilliant business people entering the trades. But it's one thing to know the trades and it's one thing to know business. So where NextStar's mission was to always help the tradesperson become a better business person, we've had a ton of business people coming to NextStar saying, help us learn the trades so we can be more
That's
effective
a real
here.
switch, right?
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's interesting. So I always think of it like, we're kind of that person who bloomed late. I've heard that term, like we bloomed late. We've always had it going on for us, but it took people a while to realize how attractive we are. The thing with AI, though, from where I sit, things like presentations, things kind of like looking at reports, I get it. But operationally, we're seeing it create more confusion, more harm than good almost. With the answering of the phones, that's a great example because that's something that can be figured out slowly. It helps you capture calls. That's a good thing. But what I'm seeing here, Paul, is currently the AR offerings in our industry, they're bolt-on and they're one-offs. They're not all connected. And so actually it's becoming more of a distraction for the owner because they're trying to figure out what's real, what's not. And you've heard of AI hallucinations where it's pulling information that it thinks is right or not. So now you have to have somebody watching it and training it when, it's sold to us currently as, oh, it's perfect. Just put it in and it'll solve everything. I think that there's a little bit of disclaimer that needs to go with a lot of this stuff. It's still learning. It's still being trained. And what I'm seeing is it's serving one part of the business where it may be answering the phones. Does it understand the marketing strategy that got it there? Does it understand the dispatching that has to happen next? Does it understand the technician's interaction with the homeowner, the repeat visits? So right now it's really in its infancy, but it's being sold as if it's perfect and ready for the main stage. But what we're learning is it's actually creating a bigger distraction for our members. So start incrementally, test in one area, and have an owner of it.
Now, what I've noticed is that when project management software comes out, there's only like 5 choices. I mean, there's job trend, builder trend, and these companies are substantial. They've got their act together. They pretty much have a good product, and there's maybe 5 to choose from. I went to the service world. There was 50 new AI companies that have been in business like 3 weeks. Just
right.
Right?
No, you're right.
And they're going, we can do this. And, 2 guys who stayed at home and figured out this is easy to do. They developed something. They did it in their office. They did it with their computer. It took them, 100 hours. They got it done. And they showed, we can do this. We can do this. We can do that. And there's a lot of noise out there. And the problem is there's too many vendors, at least as I see it.
You nailed it. That's exactly what I was alluding to with the distractions. In all fairness, these are young, enthusiastic professionals. I can tell you right now, 5 of them that our members work with I'll call them kids. They're in their 20s. They created some beautiful, intelligent technology, but here's what they miss is the human element of the residential service side. This is not an Amazon warehouse. This is not a Google Analytic to get people to click more things. These are real humans dealing with real humans, meaning a technician goes into a homeowner's house and there's so many variables they hadn't considered. So yeah, sitting at home, building their code, it made a lot of sense. And then the rubber hits the road and you hit that last mile and they realize we hadn't thought of that. We hear a lot of, we haven't got to that yet. Oh, we're building, here's what you actually,
we're building that next week. Julian, I think if you're going to choose like project management or CRM, there's, 5 major players that are probably all good, but right. When it comes to answering my phones or AI analyzing my business or all this other stuff that showed up in the last 6 months, literally, how do you help the contractors vet who's good and who's not good and make decent decisions and not get distracted by stuff that's going to take them down the wrong rabbit hole?
Yeah, part of it is we do have a technology readiness assessment where we actually have them walk through what problem are you trying to solve, what do you understand about the business, and here's another thing that we've seen coming, Paul. You've probably seen this too, is our members are actually connecting with those young 20-year-olds who are creating the thing and they're getting equity in the business because they want to get rich alongside them. So now you've got this right. double mix of they're not only are trying to use the product, but they're also committed to helping it grow. So there's 2 lanes. Number 1, understanding the technology readiness on a pure operator side. But the other thing that we've really been working with more recently, I'll be very direct, this is very new for us, but we had to do it because we keep seeing members trying to invest in these businesses and they don't understand maturation. They're not VCs, they're not angel investors. They don't understand how these things work, but they're trying to become that now also on top of running their business. So we're doing the dual exercise. Number 1, operationally, are you ready? What problem are you trying to solve? Here are the anchors and the keynotes that you're looking for. Who's the owner? Best practices, right? But on the other side, these people are becoming mini investors. So what we're actually teaching is, and it goes kind of hand in hand to the question you ask. If you can look at the way that they're growing, the way that they're building, the way that what their behaviors are showing you, are they really set to be acquired or are they going to set to fizzle? And many of these will fizzle and some will be acquired, but it's a real wild west out there.
It's a mess because you got private equity who sometimes are good guys and sometimes aren't, right? they're coming in and giving you, oh, well, it's only 3 times EBITDA or whatever they're doing. And then you've got the broker who's on the other side, oh, it's 12 times EBITDA, right? I mean, it's crazy out there because there's this sort of buying frenzy, right? There's a lot of people that are going to get hurt. And you haven't, I think maybe being a member of your organization would help them from making those mistakes, would it?
No, no, but again, and here's why I say no. I know I shouldn't drink beer every night and eat cake every night, and I know I shouldn't, but I do it. So that's all I mean is yes, we do advise, we do walk our members through it, but the buying frenzy, and the only reason I say no, I'm being a little facetious here, is also to say for market share, and there was a very unhealthy acquisition period out of private equity that we witnessed with our members, unrealistic multiples. They knew they couldn't sustain. They were looking to grab market share, and then these things are being dissolved, rolled up. So, it's the old playbook that we've seen before, but, some people got very rich off of it. Some others try to emulate the model of private equity without knowing what they're doing, and they're not going to sustain. So it created some unhealthy behaviors. I mean, you really got to know what you're doing in that game of what would I call it, creative accounting that private equity can execute. And you really have to understand the arbitrage and when to move and when not to. And everything they do is very intentional to an end. But if you jump in without knowing what you're doing, you will get burnt.
I agree. So this is all good information, Julian. If people want to join your organization or find out more about what you guys do, how do they get in touch with you?
Sure. Thank you for that. NextStarNetwork.com, NextStarNetwork.com. Make sure you land on the one that talks about residential services, because there's another one that's a conglomerate. I think they're like a TV broadcasting station. And every time they cut off Judge Judy, we get, angry calls to our office. So NextStar Network, the one that works with the trade organizations.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate being here. And I would say if you're on anybody that Julian deals with, the best investments you're going to make is joining an organization like this, because it's the best of both worlds. One, you get peer review, which is amazing. You get peer support, but you also get coaching by a company who's not paid to coach. You know what I mean? Who's member owned and really has your best interest at heart.
There you go. And we've all done it. Every employee here, we've all run our own businesses or been high level in these businesses. We come from the trades. We do bring in external talent for some of our specialty services, such as marketing. They don't have to be industry specific, or recruiting and retention. And, I know that's something that you work with too, where there are just leading practices regardless of the industry. But when it comes to the operations, the folks at NextStar have come from the trades.
Great. Thanks, Julian. I really appreciate you being here.
I appreciate the time. Thank you.